Hi and welcome back for another daily ASMR session. And today we're gonna talk sports. Yes, we're gonna drift slowly across the American map, United States map, and we're gonna trace the lines of some of the most iconic sports rivalries. Most iconic sports rivalries. Not to judge, not to compare, just peaceful storytelling. While every rivalry has layers of history and emotions, and we're gonna explore them one whisper at a time. And we're gonna start with all major sports, and first we're gonna start with NFL. Let's deep dive into historic NFL rivalries. First, Green Bay Packers versus Chicago Bears. Green Bay Packers versus Chicago Bears. Right here. So Packers versus Bears. Well, NFL. This rivalry began in 1921, making it one of the oldest American sports rivalries. Wisconsin and Illinois, side by side, but their teams carry a different history. The Packers, small town legends, and the Bears, big city traditions. There were more than 200 matchups. This rivalry grew from physical games of moody stadiums to national watched classics, and the legends were passed down like family folklore. And good, so Chicago Bears and Wisconsin Packers, Green Bay Packers. Next one is Dallas Cowboys and Washington Commanders. Right here, Washington Commanders. Let's trace a line. Again, NFL. This rivalry took shape in the 1960s, fueled by ownership clashes, dramatic comebacks, and divisional battles. What makes it special is its contrast. It's Texas pride versus historic capital region of Washington. Okay, I pointed, well, Washington is somewhere here, sorry, I pointed wrong. Good. Every season brings at least 2 high-energy meetings, and both sides circle these dates on the calendar immediately. Alright, next, let's travel to California. And we have here the San Francisco 49ers versus Los Angeles Rams. Somewhere right here. Well, 2 Californian teams with decades of NFC West competition. NFC. Their rivalry intensified in the 1970s, flared up again, and in the 1990s reaches a new peak. Style changes, star players emerge, but the tensions between NorCal and SoCal never fades. Good. Next, NBA. Next is NBA. And we have the Los Angeles Lakers. Yeah, Lakers versus Boston Celtics. So I need to trace a line all over the United States into Boston. Alright, Celtics. Good, so we have here NBA, mostly important. So Los Angeles Lakers versus Boston Celtics. This basketball's most famous rivalry, born in the 1960s and reborn in 1980s, reviewed again in the 2000s, more a dozens of NBA finals matchups and creating legends and cultures. Magic versus Bird, Kobe versus Pierce. Every chapter has its own energy. Next, NBA. Chicago Bulls versus Detroit Pistons. So, Bulls versus Pistons, and Bulls. Alright, Chicago Bulls versus Detroit Pistons. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, these two teams symbolized opposite basketball philosophies. The Pistons rugged defensive style clashes with the Bulls' rising superstars' finesse. Their playoff battles were intense physicals and unforgettable stories were written on the field, on the pitch, and shaped the Bulls' dynasty era. Next, the Golden State Warriors and Cleveland Cavaliers. Well, Golden State Warriors from San Francisco and into Ohio. So we're gonna need to trace a line like this. Okay, I hope you're gonna see it to Ohio. Again, we're talking about NBA. So here we have the Warriors. And here the Cleveland Cavaliers cover. Yes. Well, a modern rivalry defined by 4 consecutive NBA Finals, 2015-2018. Coast versus Midwest. Fast-paced offense versus heroic performance. In many ways, it became the defining story of the recent NBA culture. Alright. Now let's switch to MLB. Century-long baseball traditions. MLB. Now we're gonna go East Coast, and here is a famous rivalry between New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox. So, New York Yankees, and Boston Red Sox, and here we talk MLB. Well, this rivalry stretches back over 100 years, rooted in legendary dramatic players, dramatic clashes, and moments like Course of the Bambino. It's not just baseball, it is cultural Chicago Cubs versus St. Louis Cardinals. So here we have Cubs to St. Louis Cardinals, like we drawing the trace, like here, Cardinals, Chicago Cubs. Two Midwestern cities connected by trade routes, river systems, and baseball, so MLB. Diamonds, their rivalry began in the early 20th century and continues even now in the tightly contested divisions, races, and fan bases that travel across the state lines many times per year. Let's go again, California, and there is even in MLB another very fierce rivalry between San Francisco Giants and Los Angeles Dodgers. So, Giants versus Dodgers. Again, we're talking about MLB. This rivalry actually started in New York. Giants versus Dodgers before both teams moved to California in 1958. Despite relocation, this tension remained completely intact, making it one of the most enduring rivalries in American sports. Next, NHL, fierce battles on the ice. Well, the next one is Montreal Canadiens versus Boston Bruins. So, we don't not gonna talk Montreal. So, Canadiens versus Boston Bruins. And here is Bruins. And here it's about NHL. Even though Montreal is in Canada, the rivalry is deeply connected to American markets. Over 700 matches, multiple playoff series, and decades of contrasting hockey culture that have shaped the icy showdown. Good. So did Montreal Canadiens versus Boston Bruins. Next one in NHL. Again, Chicago is one of the points. Chicago Blackhawks versus Detroit Red Wings. Hawks, Blackhawks, Red Wings, Red Wings versus Chicago Blackhawks. Blackhawks versus Ring. NHL. Alright. Well, two original six teams with the blue-collar identities. The rivalry peaked from 1980s to early 2010s, filled with intense playoff matchups and passionate involvement. Next one is New York Rangers versus New Jersey Devils. So, Rangers versus Devils. So, New York and New Jersey, right here. A very short trips between fan bases. And the rivalry defined the proximity cities separated by only a few minutes at a playoff classics like 1994 Eastern Conference Finals. And you get one of the most heated regional matchups. Well, what we can say is that every rivalry is more than a game. It is a geographically meeting tradition and passions. Memory. When traced slowly on a map, each line becomes a story, a connection between cities, fans, and decades. Well, what I can say is that I'm gonna thank you for drifting through these rivalries with me today, and if I miss something, don't judge me. And until next time, I wish you